ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So I am very happy to be serving all of you, those who are watching live and all those who are watching through this video. We are very, very happy to present Krishna Katha for the pleasure of all the devotees. As we repeat it time and again, that the pastimes of Krishna, the forms of Krishna, the description of the glories of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, they purify the consciousness. Kona tripyeta shrunvana shrutadnya nityanutana. Therefore, it is said in the scripture that who is that person who will be satisfied just by hearing once? Kona tripyeta. Who is that person who can be satisfied? So therefore, this is the process. The process is to hear and chant about Krishna forever. One time one person asked Srila Prabhupada, all of your followers are chanting and hearing constantly. You're chanting the names of Krishna, you're chanting the glories of Krishna, you're speaking from the same Srimad Bhagavatam, you're hearing the same pastimes, you're chanting the same Maha Mantra. What do you expect out of this chanting? Srila Prabhupada smiled and he said, we expect to continue chanting forever. This is the glories. This is the glories. One of Krishna's qualities in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is ever freshness. Krishna is ever fresh. Nitya Navanavayamanam. Krishna is ever fresh. So similarly, Krishna, because he is ever fresh, and Krishna, his names, forms, qualities, pastimes, glories, narrations, abode, paraphernalia, associates are all non-different. He's called as absolute truth, which means there's no difference between Krishna and Krishnas. Krishna's dham, Krishna's friends, Krishna's associates. They're all transcendental. There's no difference. So therefore, because Krishna is ever fresh and he's eternally sweet, everything to do with Krishna, like Krishna's names, like Krishna's forms, Krishna's glories, Krishna's pastimes, they're all ever fresh. Now we're all gearing up for this month of Kartik, Damodar month. And every year, for 30 days in this month, we speak about the same pastime of Krishna being bound by the love of Mother Yashoda. We worship the same picture, the same form. We don't worship Krishna stealing butter in that, but we worship Krishna being punished by his mother. Such a sweet pastime. But the same pastime is spoken, the same pastime is heard, the same Damodar Ashtaka is sung, but it is ever fresh. It is always fresh. It's been meditated upon from time immemorial. And it will continue forever by all those who desire their ultimate benefit. So, taking this discussion ahead and taking this as the base for what is to come, I have decided to speak something on the topic Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is one of the most common questions that is asked, especially in India. If you speak about Krishna, the most commonly asked question is, Why do people in ISKCON, why do the Hare Krishnas always talk about Krishna? Why is it not Ganesha? Why is it not Shiva? Why is it not Parvati? Why is it not any of the other very popular controllers of this world? Why do you always talk about Krishna? What is the proof that Krishna is God? Some people, even to become popular, come up with so many different types of philosophies. There's one person who would come and say that, well, God doesn't exist. And then he gets the votes of all those who are atheistic. Then another person comes in and he says, God exists. But all these names that you see, they're all one. Everybody is God. Then the third person comes in and he says, no. There's only one God. And that's me. And the fourth person comes and he says, everything is God. You are God, I am God, this is God, that is God, everything is God. So in this way, there's so much of confusion. You speak about God and it's taken to be the G word. It's very difficult to understand. But Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, and even when he preached in India, he never compromised. He never diluted the conclusions of the scripture to match the opinion of the crowd. He kept the standard of the scriptures as it is and presented it, bridged it in a way that people could understand. He never diluted the philosophy. He never said, well, the Puranas say this, the Upanishads say this, the Vedas say this, Gita says this, Bhagavatam says this. But you know what? Ultimately, yathamat tathapat. Reality is what you think it is. He never said that. He made it very crystal clear. And it's not a cult. It's not something that we all believe in unanimously because of some worldwide brainwashing. We are fixed. We follow this not because of blind faith, but because of authenticated faith. We look to the revealed scriptures, the words of God, the wisdom texts of Vedic age, and on the basis of the conclusions of different shastras and scriptural injunctions, we put the things together and we understand what the reality is. So in today's class, to make things more easier and accessible, something that generally people don't sit and research on their own, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all the different acharyas whom we'll be quoting, we have come up with a small list of different names and different powerful controllers in this world and what they feel about this whole matter. Who is God and is Krishna really God? So in this discussion, we'll quote a few demigods, we'll quote a few rishis, a few devotees, and then we'll hear from the top three. We'll hear from Brahma, we'll hear from Shiva, and then we'll hear from Krishna, straight from the horse's mouth. We'll hear from Krishna too. So let's start with Ganesha. Ganesha is the very popular personality, worshipable personality in India, especially in Maharashtra. They celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, and it's a very festive occasion in Mumbai especially, and in Pune and other places, when the elephant head demigod Ganesha comes in for a few days. So in the Brahma Samhita, the conclusion of Brahma, chapter 5, text 50, Lord Brahma says, Yat pada pallavam vinidhaya kumbha dvandve pranama samaye sa ganadiraja vignan vihantum alamasya jagatrayasya govindam adipurusham tam aham bhajami. Lord Brahma links Krishna to Ganesha and he says, Yat pada pallava yugam vinidhaya kumbha. He says, Yat pada pallava, the lotus feet, yugam, the two lotus feet of Krishna, where are they kept? Dvandve pranama samaye sa ganadi raja. It is kept on the head of Ganadi Raja. Gana Adi Raja. Raja means king, Adi means etc., and Gana means troops. So Ganesha or Ganadi Raja means same. The Lord of the troops, Ganesha, Ganapati. So it said the elephant-headed Ganesha, he gets the power to do what? Vignan vihantum. He destroys the obstacles. Jagattrayasya. He destroys the obstacles of all the personalities in all the three worlds. Vignan. Vignan means obstacles. Vihantum. Hantum. Vihantum. To special, very carefully destroy all the obstacles, all the blocks, roadblocks, the burdens that come up on the path of material and spiritual lives, of all the personalities in the three worlds. That's his service. Therefore, he is also called as Vignaharta, he who takes away the obstacles on our path. You have a path and then you have speed breakers. It's Ganesha who takes the speed breakers away. But now the question is, where does he get that power to uproot those speed breakers, to uproot those obstacles? And Brahma says, Dvandve pranama samayesa ganadiraja. Lord Ganesha gets the power to uproot and to destroy the obstacles on the path of all the jivas in the three worlds by clasping, by holding the lotus feet of Govinda, Sri Krishna, on the top of his elephant head. So this is a very wonderful expression to say that how Lord Ganesha acts as a perfect instrument. The actual glory of Ganesha is not to say that he is God, because he himself will be uncomfortable, because that's not his position. But the actual glory of Ganesha, the actual praise, the actual manner of glorifying him is by saying how wonderfully he depends on the mercy of the Lord. How wonderfully he acts as an instrument in the hands of Krishna. With an elephant head, considered to be very, very intelligent, the writer of the scriptures, where does he get his power from? He gets his power to do his service by holding the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is a very important principle even in our life. When we are stuck in situations where we don't know how to uproot the obstacles, where we don't know how to get the strength to do our service, he's teaching us to hold the lotus feet of the Lord on the head. Yatpada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karmashayan gratitam udgratayantavi. Tadvanna rikta matayo yatayopi santa shrotum ganasta maranam bhaja vasudevam. The glories of holding the Lord's lotus feet is profusely sung in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So many verses. By holding the lotus feet of the Lord in our heart, in our life, on our head, we can overcome everything. Brahma, in Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 58 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that this material world is like an ocean of suffering. An ocean means you have water and you can't measure the depth, you can't see the other end, you can't measure how wide it is. Insurmountable. You cannot pass it. You either drown or you swim or you float, but you're struggling. And the currents and the tides and the sharks and the whales, it's a very difficult place. So this material world is considered to be an ocean of suffering where the water is actually suffering and where birth, old age, disease and death are the aquatics. They are the sharks, they are the whales, they are the crocodiles. But Brahma says, those who hold the lotus feet of Krishna, what happens to them? That oceanic water becomes as small and as concentrated as the water held in the hoof print of a calf. Samashritaye padapallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam budir vatsapadam. Vatsapadam means the hoof print of a calf. Parampadam. The aspect of holding the lotus feet, the topmost treasure in the whole of creation. It's so powerful that the oceanic waters of distress of this world can be reduced to water that can be held in the hoof print of a calf. Do you have to swim through? You can just jump. You don't even have to jump through. You have to step over, cross over. And Lord Ganesha is teaching us by example how to follow principles. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatassa pantha. The Mahabharata explains we cannot fathom what the reality is. It's very intricate. The principles of dharma are very intricate, and therefore we must follow the great authorities. And Ganesha here is a great authority. Very powerful personality, and he's teaching us by example how to do one's service, how to not get proud, and depend on the mercy of Krishna by holding his lotus feet on the head. So you get empowered, you depend on the Lord, you do your service, and you don't take credit. So Ganesha is teaching here how to do that. And in the same chapter 5 of the Brahma Samhita, even the position of Durga is explained. Very powerful personality. She's considered to be, and she's explained and glorified to be the fortress of this fort of material existence. In Sanskrit, Ga means to go, and Dur means not. So Durga basically means a prison house. Durg. Ga means going, and Dur means don't or not. So Durg basically means a jail or a prison house, a place where you shouldn't go, or a place, if you go in, very difficult to come out. So this material world is called as Durg. It's a prison house where the shackles, the iron shackles, are the desire to enjoy sex. Gross and subtle sex. Gross sex is sexual indulgence, and subtle sex is desire to be recognized. The desire to be honored, acknowledged. So deep-rooted. So deep-rooted. Puja, labh, pratishtha. False ego. That's the shackles. We don't see it. We don't see the iron shackles in this world. But that's how it's binding us. It's grinding us. It's churning us moment after moment. And she is the jailer. So just like jailer, you have Durga. Feminine, Durga. She's the fortress. She's the personality. She's the jailer who takes care of this material existence. And what's her position? It's described, chapter 5, text 44, Brahma Samhita. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka. She is the Shakti. She is the external energy of the Lord. Just like Lord Ganesha or Ganadi Raja does the service of overcoming obstacles by holding the lotus feet of Krishna. Durga does the service of Srishti Sthiti Pralaya. But as the external energy, she helps in creation, maintenance, and destruction. Srishti Sthiti Pralaya. Creation, maintenance, destruction. Shakti Reka. She is the only energy of the Lord, the external energy, the fortress, the jailer of this material world. And it is because of her everything happens. But is she independent? Does she do all of this independently? The Brahma Samhita says no. Ichha anurupam. Ichhanurupam api yasya cheshthate sa. Sa means she, like in English. S-H-E, she is S-A, sa, in Sanskrit. So ichha means desire. Ichha anurupam. Anurupam means to follow. So she follows the desire of whom? Ichha anurupam api yasya. That yasya means Krishna. Cheshthate, acting. So she, cheshthate sa. So she acts according to his desire. Ichha anurupam. And Brahma explains, who is that yasya? Who is that person? Govindam. It's Krishna. Now these are Shastric proofs. It's not made up. This verse was chanted by Brahma, who with his 4 heads has 4 intelligence. And through his 4 mouths chants the 4 Vedas. Atharva, Sama, Rig, and Yajur. So he knows everything in, out, up, down, front and back. He knows everything crystal clear, and he's saying. He's not saying, oh, Durga, oh, she doesn't do anything. Well, he says, she is single-handedly the external energy, Eka. Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. She takes care of creation, maintenance, and destruction. But let me tell you, it's not done. He says, Ichha. She goes according to somebody's desire. Ichha anurupam. She acts. Follows. Yasya. Krishna. Cheshthate sa. She acts according or in line or following the desire of Krishna. To that Krishna I bow down, Lord Brahma says. So very interesting. We spoke about Ganesha, we spoke about Durga, and it goes on. Suta Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 13, Text 1. The last chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the conclusion. He says, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta Stunvanti Divyai Sthavair Vedai Sanga Padakramopanishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tad Gatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasya Antam Na Vidu Sura Asura Gana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Such a big verse. I'll split it up. He says, Yam Brahma Varuna Indra Rudra Maruta. Different names of demigods. These 5 demigods and etc. Brahma, Indra, Rudra, who's Shiva. Maruta, Varuna, in charge of wind, in charge of water, in charge of demigods, in charge of creation, in charge of destruction. He's talking about 5 big personalities. Brahma, Indra, Rudra, Maruta, Varuna. Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Maruta. 5 personalities. In charge of water, in charge of wind, in charge of creation, maintenance, destruction, and the Lord of all demigods, Indra. What do these personalities do? Suta Goswami, he says, Stunvanti Divyai Stavair. They glorify with transcendental poetry. Divyai Stavair. There's a difference between stava and stotra. Subtle technical difference. Sometimes we find and this is called Mukunda Mala Stotra. Stotra means poetry or glorification. But Rupa Goswami's work is called Stava Mala, or Raghunath Das Goswami's work is called Stavavali. What is the difference between stava and stotra? Both come from the root word stu. But stotra is repeating the conclusions of the previous acharyas. While stava is the natural, spontaneous, outpouring, heartfelt effusions from the heart of the acharya. So he's not planning to write it. He just sits down and it's just pouring and he starts writing it. That's stava. So these personalities, what do? Stunvanti divyai stavair. On the spot with transcendental poetry, they go on glorifying Krishna. Stunvanti. And what do they use as support? Vedaihi, using Vedas. Sa Anga, with all the other corollaries. Upanishadai, using the Upanishads. Gayanti, they keep singing. Suta Goswami says all these demigods with Vedas, with Upanishads, with Puranas, with all these different literatures and sources and references, they go on glorifying Krishna spontaneously in a transcendental manner. And Tunvanti Divyai Stavair Vedai Sanga Padak Kramopanishadai Gayanti. Gayanti means singing. What else sings Krishna's glory? Yam Samaga. Samaveda, every verse of Samaveda sings Krishna's glory. And Samaveda is considered to be higher than the other Vedas because Krishna says, Vedanam Samavedosmi. Among the Vedas, I am Samaveda. And Samaveda, every verse sings Krishna's glory. Not just that. Then he continues, Suta Goswami. Dhyan avastita tad gatena manasa pashyanti yam yogina. Yogis who meditate for 1 billion lifetimes, one pointed contemplative meditation in the hearts of their hearts. Whom do they see? They see the Lord of this universe, that is Krishna. And then Suta Goswami says, Yasya antam. And this personality, whether he has a beginning or an end, Yasya antam na vidu. Sura asura gana. Whether the demigods or the demons or the kinnaras or the kimpurushas or the yakshas or the siddhas or the charanas or the vidyadharas, all different types of species and personalities. No one knows the beginning, middle and end of this personality. Therefore, he is the greatest. This is ultimate glorification in the last chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam has over 350 chapters. And in the last chapter, it's the conclusion, and Suta Goswami is giving jewels through poetry. And he's saying, Devaya Tasmai Nama. To that personality, I bow down. So Suta Goswami, he says Krishna is God. Durga is connected to Krishna following the instructions of Krishna. Lord Ganesha keeps the lotus feet of Krishna on his elephant head to do his service. What else? Let's move on. Indra, Canto 10, Chapter 25, Text 5, Govardhan Leela, Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Vachalam balisham stabdam ajna panditamanina. It's a very beautiful verse. Definitely one of my favorites in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Indra here is actually criticizing Krishna. He says, Vachalam. Oh, this boy is too talkative. Vachalam. He is over talkative. Small boy, and he's telling his father what to do, what not to do. Too much. This is Govardhan Leela. So Krishna speaks Karma Mimamsa philosophy and tells Nanda Baba, well, don't worship him. He has to give rain. You don't have to bribe him. You do your duty. He has to do his duty. It rains on the fields. They don't do a yajna. It rains on the mountains. They don't do a yajna. But you're doing a yajna for him and he's giving you the same that he's giving them. No. He has to do his duty. You don't have to give him all this. So Indra's false ego is just getting crushed. So he says, Vachalam, oh, this boy is talkative. Balisham, he's childish. Very childish. 7 years old. Too childish. He has some problem. He's not nourishing here. He's very immature. Vachalam balisham sthabdam. Oh, he's so arrogant, I tell you. This Krishna, this boy is so arrogant. Vachalam, talkative. Balisham, childish. Sthabdam, arrogant. Ajna, foolish. And still, Panditamanina, he still considers himself to be a Pandit. Now this is what Indra said, out of false ego and pride. But the Acharyas explain that Goddess Saraswati didn't have the audacity to carry this as it is to Krishna. Now imagine if somebody has burnt something while cooking and the waiter has to take it. He has to take it to the person who's going to eat it. And the person sees this. Hey, who made all this? Go away. What if he just hits the plate and the waiter has to face the anger, not the cook? So Goddess Saraswati, who's the goddess of learning and the goddess of speech, she didn't have the audacity to carry these words as it is. So she flipped it and presented to Krishna as glorification. So Indra is actually glorifying. She comes to Krishna and says, actually Indra is glorifying you. Vachalam, oh, there's nobody who can speak like you. Indra said, Vachalam means he's talkative. But Saraswati said, oh, Krishna, there can be nobody who can speak like you. At the age of 7, you speak so much. Oh, so wonderful. You explain so nicely. Vachalam, Balisham. Indra said childish. Goddess Saraswati said childlike. Oh, Krishna, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But simply to give pleasure to the hearts of all the residents of Vrindavan, you're appearing as a child. Sthabdam. Indra said, you're arrogant. Therefore, you don't bow down before anybody. Oh, Krishna, but the reality, Sthabdam means you don't have to bow down before anybody because you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sthabdam. Ajna. Indra said Ajna means foolish, ignorant. But Goddess Saraswati translated Ajna as follows. She said Nya means knowledge. And Ajna means he who has no knowledge actually. But Saraswati said, means no need of knowledge. You don't have to cultivate knowledge because knowledge originates in you. She also said, there is nothing that you don't know. You're all cognizant. You know everything. Omniscient. And Pandita Manina, Indra said, still considers himself to be a Pandit, but Saraswati said, oh my lord, Vachalam, Balisham, Stabdam, Ajna. These are the conclusions of the great Pandits. They say there's nobody who can talk like you. Because Krishna would speak the Gita in the future. In 48 straight minutes, he would speak 700 verses. So Vachalam, nobody can speak like Krishna. Balisham, who can perform childlike pastimes? Nandaha kim akarod brahman shreyameva mahodayam yashoda cha mahabhaga papau yasya stanam hari. Shukdev Goswami is asked by Parikshit Maharaj, unbelievable childlike pastimes. Krishna is drinking milk of Mother Yashoda. Oh, God who has everything, he is drinking the milk of Mother Yashoda. What have Nanda and Yashoda done? Childlike pastimes. Stabdam, Krishna doesn't have to bow down before anybody. Indra will bow down to Krishna. Brahma bows down to Krishna. Krishna doesn't have to bow down because he is the source of everything. And everything comes from him. Everything comes from Krishna. Ajna, he knows everything. There's nothing that he doesn't know. There's nothing outside of him. Everything is inside. Krishna is the source of everything. So we find how Indra is also indirectly glorifying Krishna. And even Saraswati, goddess Saraswati, who is the embodiment of learning. She's the epitome. She's the origin of everything. Knowledge, material knowledge. But she also understands that, well, the words have to be flipped because Krishna is the source of everything. Krishna is called Uttama Shloka because he is glorified with choicest poetry. Uttama Shloka, Gunanuvarnanam. So in this way, so many references. We spoke about Durga, we spoke about Ganesha, we spoke about Suta Goswami, we spoke about Indra. Now let's continue. Let's go to Arjuna. Now Arjuna in chapter 10, Bhagavad Gita, text 12 and 13. He says, Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Adideva Majam Vibhu. He says, who are you, O Krishna? Param Brahma. You are the topmost personality. Param Dhama. You are the ultimate abode that anybody can approach. Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram. You are the purest. Purity begins from you. It originates from you. Paramam Bhavan. You are the topmost. Purusham. You are a personality. God is not light. God is not impersonal. That is one of his aspects and features. But Arjuna says Purusham. Krishna is a Purusha. He is a person with a personality. And Shashwatam. He is eternal. He faces no birth and no death. Therefore, Krishna appears and disappears. The example is like the sun. Appears, disappears. Rises, sets. The sun is never born and the sun never dies. So, Shashwatam, Krishna is eternal. And Divyam, he doesn't have a body like this. Skin, blood, bones, mucus, no. Completely transcendental. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Shashwatam Divyam Adidevam. He is the origin of all the demigods. Ajam. Without birth. Vibhum, greatest. So many adjectives. And you might think, well, this also means this and this also means this. And why is Arjuna putting so many adjectives together which mean the same? It's because for emphasis. Because he knows people in Kali Yuga are dull-headed. Prayena alpayusha sabhya kalau asmin yuge jana mandha sumandha matayor mandha bhagya rupadrita. People in Kali Yuga are slow, lazy, less intelligent, and most importantly, always restless. So for people in Kali Yuga, it's very difficult to understand. Is Krishna really greatest? Is he transcendental? Is he eternal? So Arjuna puts all the adjectives properly in the right rhythm. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham, Shashwatam, Divyam. Boom, 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 boom. Please understand. Wonderful. And then he says, Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayam Chaiva Bhavishime. He says, not just this, it's not just my conclusion, but great personalities like Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Narada, they also have the same conclusion. And Swayam Chaiva Bhavishime, and you yourself are telling me this. So this is the fact, Arjuna says. So you find Arjuna is listening to the Gita and he is really very, very smart. He's very intelligent, very powerful, very skilled. And Arjuna is putting his conclusion and he's also supporting with some recommendation letters. He's putting Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Narada. He says these are their conclusions too. So this is in proper line. And Shukadeva Goswami. Let's talk about him now. Shukadeva Goswami in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28. He describes different incarnations and different personalities, and then finally he tells Parikshit Maharaj, Ete cham sakalaha pumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He says these are different incarnations and plenary portions and portions of the portions and expansions and so many other aspects. But he says, please understand, the root of all of this, the source of all that exists is Krishna. So the line that we must remember is Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shukdev Goswami says. 1.3.28. And Shukdev Goswami is he who's speaking 18,000 verses of the Bhagavatam. Completely transcendental. Great personality. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute. It is composed by the great, it is sung by the great, and those who hear also become great. So Shukdev Goswami is a great personality. And his father is Vyasadeva, who compiles the Srimad Bhagavatam, but Vyasadev's guru is Narada, who inspires the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what does Narada say? Canto 4, Chapter 31, Text 14, Bhagavatam, says that Narada spoke to the Prachetas, the sons of Prachina Barhishad, that that this whole structure of different controllers, they're all like different leaves and twigs and branches and stem and trunk, etc. But the root is the most important. He says, what is important in a tree? If you have to water a tree, would you water the leaf? Would you water the fruit? Would you water the flower? Would you water the stem? Would you water the trunk? Would you water the branches? Would you water the sub-branches? You may or may not, but mainly you would water the roots. And second example, Narada says, your eyes will see, your ears will hear, your tongue will taste, your hands can touch, your legs will walk. But when you're hungry, when the senses go weak, where do you feed food? Where do you put the food? You put it into the stomach. If I write a 3-hour exam and my fingers are hurting and I say I'm really very, very hungry and my fingers are really tired, let me keep a chapati on my hand. The fingers are really tired, let them eat the chapati. What's going to happen? It's not going to survive. Even if the hands do the work, the legs do the walking, the eyes do the seeing, and the tongue does the talking, still the food goes to the stomach. Because that's the source that enlivens all the senses. And in the first example, it's the root which enlivens all the different parts of the tree. Interestingly, Narada tells the Prachetas, this root in the first example and this stomach in the second example is Krishna. And different parts of the tree in the first example and different senses in the second example are the demigods. Yatha tarur moola nishechanena tripyanti tat skanda bujopi shakha pranopahara cha yatendriyanam tathaiva sarvaranam achyuta ijya. Ijya means worship. Achyuta means the infallible Krishna. Chuta means he who can fall from his position. Chuta. The demigods are called as chutas because they can fall from their position. And means negation. So Achyuta is the name of Krishna because he never falls from his position. He's infallible. Pranopaharacha yatendriyanam tathaiva sarvaranam Achyuta ijya. He tells the prachetas that just like watering the root of the tree and satisfying all the parts of the tree, and just like offering food to the stomach and enlivening all the senses in the body and the mind, similarly worshipping Krishna satisfies completely all the different personalities. You don't even have to look, if I worship Krishna, would Kartikeya be satisfied? Would Ganesha be satisfied? Would Durga be satisfied? You don't even have to worry. Everybody is satisfied simply by worshipping Krishna. Canto 11, chapter 5, text 41. Srimad Bhagavatam, another reference that comes to my head. That also says the same thing. Devarshi bhutaptan rinam pitrunam na kinkaram nayam rinicha rajan sarvatmana yah sharanam sharanyam gato mukunda pariritya kartam. By worshipping Mukunda, Sri Krishna, you satisfy everybody. Devarshi, Bhuta, Apta, Nrinam, Pitrunam, your forefathers, people in general, rulers, the rishis, the demigods. Na kinkaram. By serving Krishna, you don't have to individually be their servants. Nacha rini cha rajan, and nor are you in debt. Otherwise, we are all in debt because we take some sunlight from the sun, we take some rain from Indra, we take some fire from Agni, we take some water from Varuna, we take something from someone, we take knowledge from Saraswati, we take wealth from Kubera, we take ability from somebody else, and then we perform our activity. So we take things from them and do our sense gratification. So we have to repay back. We have to repay. If you get into a mall and you start putting everything into your trolley and you think of walking out without paying, you know what happens. You know better. I don't have to speak about it. So similarly, taking all these different commodities from the mall is symbolic to being or taking all these different helps and abilities from the demigods. But now if you pay at the cash counter, you don't have to individually pay at all the aisles. You take it, but then at the cash counter, there's one cashier. You just show your credit card or your debit card or your cash. And then by satisfying him, you satisfy all the aisles. So similarly, by worshipping Krishna, who is the root in the first example? Who is the stomach in the second example? Who is the cashier in the third example? We satisfy everything and everyone. Gato mukunda pariritya kartam. By worshipping he who can give us liberation, Mukunda. Krishna gives us mukti. Therefore he is called Mukunda, the giver of liberation. By worshipping Krishna, we can easily satisfy, pacify, and serve naturally all the demigods. If you have a recommendation letter from the boss of the company, you don't need the signature of the local managers. But if you go for that route, then it's difficult. Because you have to go to this person, and then he'll sign and he'll say, my authority is that guy. Then you have to go there, and then he signs it. And then he'll say, but I'm just the local authority. Now you have to go to the person who is managing this state, and it goes to him. And then he signs it. Then he says, but this has to go to that guy. And by the time you get your work done, you're tired. But now if you get a direct recommendation letter from the owner of the company, you escape all this. So Krishna is the root of everything. By selflessly giving yourself in his service, you satisfy everyone. You're not in debt, and nor are you a direct servant of anyone. You are the servant of the owner of the company. So actual ego means I am not a mere mortal. I am actually eternally the servant of the greatest personality. Do you know who my boss is? He's the greatest person. He's the richest. He's the most beautiful. He's the strongest. He's the famous. the most famous, and he has all these opulences. He's most renounced, and all these opulences that you're hankering and that attracts you, all of that comes from him. So I am his personal secretary. Oh, really? You're such a great person? Yeah, I am. That's true ego. But when this gets reflected to, oh, I am that person. Instead of saying, I am the secretary of that person, you say, oh, that person doesn't exist. Well, I am that person. That's not true ego, but that's false ego. So ego is not bad. True ego means I am Krishna Das. Krishna Das ei vishwas korle to aro dukha nai. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if you have this strong conviction that you're Krishna's servant and you're fixed in that position, then you have no more suffering. Because you're linked to the most influential person in the whole of creation. And you have a unique flavor of relationship with that person. That makes you so special. That makes us so special. But no, we don't want to accept that. We want to accept temporary designations based on this body which is going to last 50, 60, 70, 80, max 90 years. And it's going to grow old and diseased and wrinkles and white hair and broken teeth and walkers and stick. And we're still so proud. So we must understand who our real master is and connect back to him. That relationship, that sambandha, once it's established, we'll be so happy. We suffer because we have turned away from Krishna. Krishna bhuli jeev se anadi bahirmukh atheva mayatar diya samsara dukh. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that we are suffering in this world because we have turned away from Krishna. Krishna is here and we have turned away. When you look that side and Krishna is here, that's why we are suffering. Krishna is light. So when you turn away from light, you are in darkness. And when you're in darkness, you don't see anything. And you step over broken pieces of glass. And that pricks you. And you start crying. That's what happens in this world. We're turning away from Krishna. We're turning away from knowledge. We are acting in ignorance. We don't see things as they are. And therefore we suffer and we cry. So the source of all suffering is turning away from Krishna. And we turn away from Krishna because we don't know that he's the Supreme Personality. So we find how different personalities. Narada spoke this. Shukdev Goswami spoke this. Suta Goswami spoke this. Arjuna spoke this. Indra said the same thing. Durga says the same thing. Lord Ganesha says the same thing. And Uddhava, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 21. 3:2:21. He says, Kirita koti ritapada pithaihi. He says, oh, Krishna is so great that all the demigods are waiting in lines and they're all bowing down to Krishna at the same time and their helmets are all clanging onto the ground. Kirita koti. Crores and crores, billions and billions of demigods are bowing down at the same time. They're wearing helmets and they're bowing down at the same time and the helmet is hitting the ground and the same clanging sound is heard. Padapithai. They're bowing down to Krishna's lotus feet. Swayam tu asamya. Who is Krishna? Uddhava says, this Krishna, he is asamya. He is unequaled. And atishaya. And there's nobody greater also. Nobody greater, nobody equal. And he's the Lord of the threes. What are the threes? Anything that's three, Krishna is the Lord of them. Like Krishna is the Lord of goodness, passion, ignorance. Krishna is the Lord of past, present, and future. Krishna is the Lord of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Krishna is the Lord of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Karanodakashayi Vishnu. Krishna is the Lord of the three worlds. Krishna is the Lord of Devi Dham, which is material world, Mahesh Dham, which is Kailas, and Golok Dham, Golok Vrindavan. So three. So anything that is three, Krishna is three Adishaha. He's the Lord of everything that's three. Like that. So, Kirita Koti Ritapada Pita. And therefore, the demigods bow down and their crown and their helmets clangs it hits the ground and there's a clanging sound at the same time. Billions and billions of demigods. This is quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, in the Madhya Leela, to show that Krishna is worthy of all worship. And this is also quoted by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Rupa Goswami says that Krishna is all honorable. He says Krishna has 64 qualities, of which quality number 49 is all honorable. Rupa Goswami says the doorkeepers of Krishna in Dwaraka have a busy life. Krishna is the king of Dwaraka and his doorkeepers have a very busy life. And one day it became so busy that a doorkeeper had to say, "Oh Shiva, please stand in the line. Oh Brahma, please don't talk loudly. Oh Indra, Krishna has no time for you today, please go. Varuna, please bow down. And Maruta, please sit. Please be patient." Rupa Goswami quotes Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Prabhupada writes very beautifully in Nectar of Devotion. He says that's the position of Krishna. The doorkeepers in Dwaraka have a tough time because all these demigods are coming down to bow down to Krishna. And the doorkeepers have to say, wait. Now he goes in first. You wait. Please be patient. Don't chant your prayers loudly. Krishna can hear you. You please sit. There's no appointment. Please come tomorrow. So they are the greatest managers. Krishna appoints the greatest managers from the biggest management schools. The Harvard Business School or the MIT School or Chicago Booth School, whichever the big business school, all the management intellectuals, they're all fighting for jobs in this world, but managing the guests, being a doorkeeper in Dwaraka, it's a very demanding job. Very, very demanding. And Rupa Goswami says it's a tough task because so many people want to come and meet Krishna. Because Krishna is all honorable. So in this way we covered Lord Ganesha, we covered Durga, we covered Indra, we covered Arjuna, we covered Suta Goswami, we covered Shukdev Goswami, we covered Narada, we covered Uddhava, and we covered Rupa Goswami. And finally, after all these names, in the last 10 minutes that we have, as I promised, we'll go to the big three names. We'll go to Brahma, we'll take Shiva, then we'll come to Krishna. What does Brahma as the creator of everything say? Brahma is considered to be the secondary creator. The primary cause is Krishna. So Brahma, who creates everything and who was imparted the knowledge of creation in his heart, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye, to that Brahma whom everything is known, that Brahma in the Brahma Samhita constantly goes on saying, Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Therefore, Prabhupada made it a practice that every morning during deity greetings, we chant this. Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami. But what does this mean? Who has said it? Brahma has said it. For whom? For Krishna. But what does this statement mean? Govindam is Krishna's name. And how is he? Adi Purusham. Oh, the source, the original personality. There are so many Purushas, but he's Adi Purusha. He's the first rank. He's the A grade. Right? He has the A plus grade throughout. He's the Adi Purusha, the first. And therefore, Tam Aham Bhajami. I worship and bow down to such a personality. Goes on repeatedly. Every verse. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Goes on that I worship that Govinda. I worship that Govinda who's the primeval Lord. I worship that Govinda who's the primeval Lord. And he starts the Brahma Samhita by saying, Ishwaraha Paramaha Krishnaha. Ishvara means controller. We could say we are also Ishwaras in our insignificant, infinitesimal aspect or quantity. Ishvara. We control something and someone and somehow. Ishvara. Parama means topmost. So Ishvaraha, controller. Paramaha, topmost. Who is the topmost controller of all controllers? Krishna. That's the first line of Brahma Samhita. Ishvaraha, Paramaha, Krishnaha, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. And what type of form does he have? Vigraha, Sat Chit Ananda. It's eternal. Therefore, he never dies, never grows old, never gets diseased, never has to enter a womb and suffer for 9 months. Chit, full of knowledge, which means he never makes mistakes. We make mistake because of ignorance. Full in knowledge, he is all cognizant. He knows what to speak, where to speak, how to speak, when to speak, to whom to speak. And Ananda, he's the reservoir of all happiness. Raso Vaisaha. Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He's the origin, he's the ocean of unlimited, inconceivable happiness. Imagine if you can live forever and you have full knowledge in the head and you have full happiness in the heart, you should be the happiest person. The best position to be in. Yes, that's Krishna. And because we are his servants, that's also our position. We are chit, we are cognizant of Krishna's position, our position and the relationship. We are eternal, we never die as spirit souls. And we are happy performing service, Ananda. But the problem is when we go away from Krishna and we try to live forcefully, we try to live in this body. Oh, the body is, there's birth and there's death. And that's not common for the soul. So there's suffering. Oh, I want to live forever. No, the body collapses. And you have to leave. Imagine if you keep changing apartments because the roof comes down again and again. You're miserable. You want a place where you can live comfortably. Then you're happy. But for the soul, sometimes 30 years, sometimes 40 years, sometimes 60 years. Now that's a shame in comparison to eternity. What's 30 years? I've heard sometimes even devotees, they say, oh, 30 years ago, I was like this. Time flies. What's 30 years in comparison to eternity? So Sat, Chit and Ananda. Because of forcefully trying to live in this body, we are not eternal because we consider we are the bodies and the body is temporary. And the body is a network of illusion. Therefore we make mistakes and therefore we suffer. And no Ananda because this material world is a place of suffering. Welcome, boom, 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 3 crosses. And we still want to make this world a better place. There's a very beautiful saying that when I was intelligent, I thought of changing the world. But then I became wise and clever and I thought of changing myself. So the problem of all suffering is not things around us. It's our consciousness that's completely locked up. When you turn to Krishna and we perform bhakti, it loosens up and the chitta becomes straight. Consciousness becomes soft and clear. And on that unrippled layer of consciousness, we can be happy. At the moment, it's agitated and provoked and irritated and restless and constantly moving. And how can we be happy? But when we return to our original nature and serve Krishna, the consciousness becomes plain and unperturbed. We become happy. So Brahma, he says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha. Krishna is the source of everything and therefore he is the greatest controller. And Anadi, Adir Govinda. He is beginningless and he is the origin. Sarva Karana Karanam. And he is the source and the cause of everything that exists. This is coming from the words of the Creator. That's what Brahma has to say. Now let's go to what Shiva has to say. Lord Shiva in the Padma Puran, He says, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat parataram devim tadiyanam samarchanam. He says, O Goddess Parvati, out of all types of worship, of all types of honor, of all types of puja and aradhana, process of worship, the worship of Sri Krishna or Vishnu is the topmost. Vishnu aradhanam param. The worship of Krishna or Vishnu is the topmost. Aradhananam sarvesham, of the worship of all the different personalities and different processes and different paths. Well, Goddess, worshipping Vishnu or Krishna is the highest because they are the supreme. And Vishnu and Krishna are non-different. So it's not that they are the supreme, it's He's the supreme. And this is what Lord Shiva has to say. And now after all these references, let's go to Krishna. Let's go and ask him, hey Krishna, Ganesha, Durga, Indra, Arjuna, Suta Goswami, Shukdev Goswami, Narada Muni, Uddhava, Rupa Goswami, Brahma and Shiva, they say that you are God. What do you have to say? Just like sometimes these reporters go to different politicians and they say, well, he said this about you. What do you have to say? What do you think? Presidential elections, what do you think? What's going to happen? Who's going to be the president? Do you have it in you? So, when you ask Krishna, that they're all saying it's you. They're pointing finger that you are the supreme. What do you have to say? Krishna doesn't say, oh, actually, I'm not qualified. I'm not worthy. They are all so humble. Krishna doesn't say that. Krishna says, Matta parataram nanyat kinjidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Chapter 7, text 7, Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, oh Arjuna, please understand there is no truth greater than me. Point blank, straight. And then he says that my position is like that of the thread in a necklace. What supports the beads of a necklace? The thread. But what's seen? The necklace. What is not seen? The thread. Sutre manigana iva. He says it's because of me that the glitter and the glamour is seen. The pearls of the necklace of this world are seen because they're resting on the thread. And people like that, but they don't see the underlining thread, that's me. I'm the one who's keeping everything going, but I'm invisible. Na lakshase mudadrisha nato natyadaro yatha, Queen Kunti says. Canto 1, chapter 8, Bhagavatam. So in this way, Krishna says, there's no truth greater to me. And he goes on. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. He says, I am the taste and water. Prabhasmin shashi suryayo. I am the light of the sun and the moon. Pranava sarva vedeshu. I am the syllable Om of all the Vedic syllables. Shabda khe. I am the sound and ether. Paurusham rishu. I am the ability in man. Punyo gandaha prithivyamcha. I am the fragrance of earth. Jivanam sarvabhuteshu. I am the life of everything that exists. Tapaschasmi tapasvishu. I am the penance of those who perform penance. Bijam mam sarvabhutanam. I am the seed of everything. Vidhi partha sanatanam. Oh Arjuna, please understand that buddhir buddhirmatamasmi. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. Tejas tejasvinamaham. I am the effulgence of the effulgent. Balam balavatam chaham. I am the strength of the strong. And then in the same chapter, text 14, Krishna says, Daivi hesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. This material world is very difficult to overcome. And it's my energy. Therefore Krishna says, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. To cross over this material world of illusion, you have to surrender to me. So this is not the words of somebody who is very puffed up. Oh, you need to surrender to me. No. Krishna is actually giving his helping hand. He says, please come back. It's not the surrender of helpless submission. Oh, I surrender. The police comes and says, hands up. Oh, I surrender. Not like that. The devotees also raise their hand, but it's not in fear, but it's in love. We surrender to Krishna lovingly. The child embraces the father lovingly. But if the child is told, go, embrace your father, and he says, okay, and then he goes and embraces the father, there's no mellow in that, no sweetness. So out of force, you will never have sweetness. Loving relationships and sweetness is found by natural dependence. It has to be heartfelt. It has to be surrendering our minute independence and depending on Krishna. I remember on 15th August discussion, which is the Independence Day of India, we spoke about what real independence means. It's not about a country being independent of the rule of another country, but real independence means being independent of our false ego and willingly depending on Krishna. Independent means our relation is in dependence. Our actual happiness is in dependence towards Krishna, to Krishna. So therefore, only by surrendering to Krishna, because he is the source, can we overcome the material energy. And Krishna is, he describes 2 chapters before, chapter 5, text 29. He says, Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. That everything right from an atom to the big cosmic manifestation, it belongs to Krishna. He is the source of it. But is he somebody who's very proud of his position and he doesn't interact with us because we possess nothing and he possesses so much? No. The next line says, Suridam sarvabhutanam. Krishna is the dear, ever well-wishing friend of all living entities. Whether it's an ant, whether it's a mosquito, whether it's a human being, or whether it's Lord Brahma. Krishna possesses everything, but he's so dear and so loving and so kind, so well-wishing. What's the use of somebody who's very rich, very famous, very intelligent and very strong, but he's not very kind? It repels. If you have somebody who's very intelligent, but is not very kind, that's a big put-off. But if there's somebody who's very intelligent, or very rich, or very strong, or very famous, or all of them together, and super kind and helpful, that attracts more than any of these qualities. The Chaitanya Charitamrita describes Madhurya Bhagavatasar. The essence of Godhead is sweetness, and that is seen in Krishna. Gatir bharta prabhu sakshi nivasa sharanam surit prabhava pralaya sthanam nidhanam bijam avyayam. Chapter 9, text 18. Gati, Krishna is the destination. A bharta, he is the sustainer. Gatir bharta prabhu, he is the master. Sakshi, he is the witness as the super soul. Nivasa sharanam, he is the resting place, or he is the ultimate abode of shelter. Surit, he is our ever well-wishing friend. Prabhava pralaya sthanam, he is the source, bijam, he is the seed of creation, maintenance and destruction. And avyayam, indestructible and doesn't change. This is Krishna's position. Very, very exalted. And therefore Krishna says in chapter 10 now, chapter 10, text 8, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhava. Everything comes from me. Matta sarvam pravartate. The wise who understand that everything animate and inanimate comes from me, they worship me with all their hearts. And chapter 18 and chapter 9, you will find Krishna's talking about how to establish that relationship with him through surrender. Manmana bhavamad bhaktav, think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer obeisances unto me. And in this way you will surely come to me. Krishna is giving us the path. Now we could have a question. Wait a minute. Why is Krishna talking so much about himself? Is Krishna proud? Why is he saying so much that I am this, I am that, among the Vedas I am Samaveda, among the letters I am a... Why? The answer is simple. You go into a company and you go and ask the clerk, are you the vice president? He would say, no, I'm the clerk. Then you would go to the general manager. Are you the vice president? He said, no, I am the general manager. Then he goes to the CEO, or he goes to somebody else. Are you the vice president? Or are you the president? Or are you the owner? Individually going is very difficult. But here is the vice president coming down and giving his visiting card. He said, I'm the vice president. Or I'm the president. Nice to meet you. This is my visiting card. Now if you say, oh, he's so proud, he's saying that he's the president. Well, you wanted to know who's the president. You wanted to know who's the vice president or the president. And you went around asking everybody. And here is a person coming himself on his own accord and telling you that, well, I am the vice president. I thought you were searching for me. And then you say, oh, you're so proud. So we have so much of hypocrisy and double standards. So we are searching for God. And here is God coming and repeatedly telling us so that we don't go around searching. The scriptures are considered to be like the mother. And Krishna is the father. Now, if you go around asking the whole city who your father is, that's a bad state to be in. But if you go and ask your mother, and the mother says this person, and then you know that's your father. So similarly, instead of going around asking, are you God? Are you God? Are you God? Are you God? Well, just look at the scripture, and the scriptures all point towards one person. And that person says, yes, I am your father. Oh, you're so proud. So Krishna is saying this for our benefit, so that we understand that he is God and that I am part of him, part and parcel. Therefore, my relationship is with him. Imagine if there are trillion possibilities. Like, oh, okay, let's take it like this. Imagine if you have trillion different doors and you have to try which is the right one. If you open the wrong doors, assuming you fall down off a cliff, so you have a trillion doors. What is the probability that you will get it right? But if there on one of the doors it said real door, and you open it and that's the real door, and if then you complain, oh, this door is so puffed up. It says real door. Imagine, it's for our benefit. If we go around thinking, is Chandra, the moon god, is he the actual god? No, I think the sun is the actual God. No, I think it's the rain. No, I think it's the fire. No, I think it's the water. No, I think it's the wind. We'll go crazy. But here is Krishna coming and saying, wait, you searching for me? Come to me. He's standing as Jagannath like this. It's as good as saying, come back to me. Give me a hug. So God is waiting for us to turn back to him. As soon as we turn back to him, we are satisfied. That's our position. Jivera swarupa hoy, Krishnera nityadas, Krishnera tatastha shakti, Beda Bed Prakash. We belong to Krishna, and by getting back to Krishna in a loving relationship, we'll find happiness. So in this way, time and again, this question is asked through social media, through emails, through messages, through calls. So I just thought we can put up this small presentation so that whenever we have this doubt, whenever there is a haunting doubt, kick it out and see this discussion, and if it helps, then we'll be very, very happy and very grateful. Last but not the least, we find, apart from demigods and the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna himself, we find even great acharyas like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarkacharya, and even Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya, in his last work, he says, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. Mudamate means fool. Oh fool, or foolish mind. He says 3 times, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, or Govindam Bhaja. Bhaja means worship, and Govinda is Krishna. Worship Krishna, worship Krishna, worship Krishna, oh foolish mind. So it's very conclusive. All the Puranas, all the Upanishads, all the Vedic sources, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Nectar of Devotion. And all these different sources we find and references, even the Itihasas, Aranyakas, Samhitas, they all point towards the same direction. So it's high time that we follow the signals right and not get confused. We are in a dense dark forest, and all the different signs are indicated only how to get out of this forest. So let us follow these signs of the Vedic references and injunctions. Know Krishna in truth, and those who know Krishna in truth, Krishna promises in the 4th chapter, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti suarjuna. Krishna says, those who understand me in truth, such personalities never take a rebirth. They come back to me. Mam eti. So in this way, let us attempt to read the scriptures very scrutinizingly. Let's read Prabhupada's books very obediently, very scrutinizingly as our daily schedule. Let us hear the messages of Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita, the messages of Acharyas and the pastimes of Krishna from the Bhagavatam. Let us chant the holy name. Let us serve the Vaishnavas. And in this mood of connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, let us make the best use of this bad bargain of this material form. So my prostrated obeisances to all the viewers and all the devotees who may be watching this. I pray that may you kindly bless me so that I continue serving you and all other devotees in the spirit of being a humble servant. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.